The SoCon working group, worked through how committees and what their role should be moving forward, making decisions for postseason play. And so the SoCon came up with this. Committees should make the best decisions for the sport and its championships. To avoid and preserve transparency, we must shift to a metric-based selections and made away from selective committee votes. And so that kind of aligns with a lot of things that the SEC has been saying. And I personally think that the model has to be somewhere in between the, committee selecting what if it's 5 plus 11 teams, and a computer selecting those 11 teams. I think there's got to be some devil in the details there, but we see more data-driven things going on. I think the question becomes, Craig, if they go to a majorly data-driven model, it's the data that will get in that is the key, and whose data is the most important data.
I think it's only logical to not want to leave it all in the hands of one entity or the other. So, interesting at the SoCon, just the timing of them coming out and saying this in line with what we've talked about to exhausting lengths over the last week, the whole discussion about the playoff and its future and who's in charge and what they want and who wants this and who opposes that. And so I guess when that was starting to actually cool down, they throw a tiny twig back on the fire to spark it up a little bit and just kind of add more to that conversation. And I'm in the middle on it. I do think that to leave it all in the hands of the committee just creates way too many biases that are involved. And I don't trust people to always make the right decision, especially when it's all the same circles of people that are making all the choices that we're complaining about right now. So now we want that same group of people to now choose another level of how this all operates. Now they're going to choose ultimately if it's a committee that does 75% or it's metrics that do 25% or the other way around or different percentages and other things that are put into play. But yeah, I think if you can eliminate the human element or at least balance it out as best as possible to create the most even playing field, whatever that looks like, whatever that metric or that group or whatever that combination that leads to it just being even for everybody, no matter who you are and where you are, that's all I want to see. I don't know how to create that. Otherwise, I would suggest it, but I don't think it's going heavy committee. I don't think it's also going all computer. I think there's got to be a middle ground and as much of a lack of subjectivity as possible. So yeah, I'm with Michael Cross, I think, for the most part here. I think we all want to see transparency, which we didn't always get from the playoff committee. The SEC's big bitch right now is the committee itself, and they want to make sure that the committee doesn't do exactly what we're talking about because last year they feel like they got screwed even though they didn't. And so, I think everybody's probably on the same page here. And you'll hear you all hated the BCS. Well, that was when you had the two teams made it. We didn't have a 14-team playoff with the BCS. That never existed. So that's apples and oranges. It's not the same thing. It's a straw man because that never was what we were dealing with. We were dealing with two teams get in and nobody else. So I don't want to go straight to that, but some version of that combined with humans and maybe whatever else, I'll be all good with that.
So Craig, you said you didn't have the answers. I don't have the answers. Garrett, do you have the answers?
I do not have the answers.
Guess who does? Surprisingly enough, the NCAA.
Oh, I bet.
This is legitimate. They've already figured this out. They just haven't applied it to the right thing. Garrett, what is your favorite sport?
It would be college football.
Okay, what is your second favorite sport?
Hockey.
Okay, and you love the Frozen Four, correct?
I do love the Frozen Four.
Okay, do you know how they select the Frozen Four?
I do not.
Okay, I'm gonna educate you. So buckle in, folks. They have 6 conferences that receive automatic bids for their champions. So their 6 conference champions get automatic bids. Then there are 10 other at-large bids as a 16-team playoff that ultimately leads to the Frozen Four.
The 4-burner, side sear burner with Clearview glass stainless steel grill from Monument Grills. Made of tempered glass which is strong, insulated, and allows you to check your grilling without lifting the lid. Our porcelain-coated cast iron cooking grids offer a large cooking surface of 513.3 square inches, primary cooking area, with even heat cooking. The Monument Grills include LED control knobs and are easy to light with pilotless electronic ignition. Better grilling, better value, Monument Grills.
After that part of the field is determined via conference championships, the remaining teams are awarded at largest bid by the selection committee, which has 3 people from the East region and 3 people from the West region. Who these people are does not matter in this discussion, just in case you're wondering. They could be anybody. They're faceless, nameless hockey people. And according to the pre-championship manual that they came up with a couple years ago, to be eligible during the at-large process, a program must have a one-loss record of at least 500 and must have scheduled a minimum of 20 games against D1 competition. The committee also takes into account strength of schedule, the availability, eligibility of student athletes for the NCAA championships, and the RPI. The RPI is determined through 3 variables. A team's one-loss record is 25%, opponent's winning percentage is 21%, and opponent's winning percentage is 54%, which helps determine strength of schedule. So if the points awarded in RPI for a win in a postseason conference tournament game are fewer than the average, this is too much. We'll stop there. So there's a formula that exists that you could modify to do football essentially tomorrow. Will they do this? I don't know. But they're already doing it, much like the NCAA and football was already doing a playoff on the FCS level. And they were already doing selection committees with everything else, with baseball and basketball and softball and all of that. They're already doing that. So they kind of know how to do these things. They just need to de-footballize them and get the cooks out of the kitchen, so to speak.
Yeah, and so that's in line with this, obviously, and that seems like it would make a lot of sense. You kind of lost me through some of the verbiage there because I'm not a math wizard and all of that, but it all sounded like it made sense for my brain and sounded like it was pretty unbiased and just takes into account actual facts rather than saying before the season's even started that your schedule's better than that schedule because the league you play in. Which is maybe true some of the time, but is not true all the time, even though it's used like that's the case all the time, which is what we need to get rid of some of that. So, yeah, I think that sounds logical. I just want them to find the best fit and the best way to make this as good of a tournament as possible, whatever that takes. I don't have all the answers, like I said a few minutes ago, and I'm willing to hear out various ideas like we were talking about yesterday with the whole debate about the various formats. I lean one way, but I see the side of the other, way you can do it and how that would also work perhaps well. But on this, I think to take the committee out of it as much as possible is what I think everybody can pretty much agree on, except maybe the committee themselves. And so if you had a formula that would work and everybody could agree to it, which is the big hang up, here's the thing. There's a lot of great ideas, and then the people that you need to agree to them don't want to agree to them because the big problem I see here is there's not enough bias. There's not enough bias in here. You can't guarantee somebody before you start this that they're going to get their cake and be able to eat it too, which is basically what they're trying to do right now. They're trying to set it up ahead of time to where they get their wishes before we've even started the season yet, right? This is like making it black and white and very clear. So I don't know if there's enough bias baked in, which makes it the best way to do things, it sounds like, but also means it probably won't be the way they do things because they don't, as we see, they don't usually do the very best thing that makes the most sense. They do what's the best thing that enough people will agree to get what they want and, walk away happy.
I mean, like you can walk to the college football committee and they know this, and the powers that be, they know about hockey, although the SEC doesn't have anybody playing in the Frozen Four. But you can go to Greg Sankey, because Tony Bettini and his people know because they've got teams that do play in it. And they,
the thing I do worry about is like with computer stuff. I do think there has to be a human element because I think you can very easily skew the computer.
So that's what the committee's there to do.
Yeah,
is that's why they have those things.
I'm saying you can't just do one or the other. There has to be a balance. So like you can't go like there should be no committee whatsoever. It's like no, you have to have a committee for part of this deal. And it shouldn't be all computers and vice versa shouldn't be the other way either. So, there's a happy medium here, and this seems like it would be in that vicinity. Yeah,
so like if you have that, those metrics they give, there's also going to be some ones that that might get into the top 16 that you're going to say, well, they would have been, but they don't qualify because they didn't have the right number. Like you encourage, they're encouraging tough scheduling in that format, in the RPI. So the 8 games, 9 games thing is solved by that metric, in that they've set a standard for what your schedule, a bare minimum for what your schedule needs to be. So, all of that. And yes, the SEC is very concerned about winning one more game, I guess, in that format, or not being taken into account. But I mean, if they want the math, there's the math. They've already worked it out. You just really need to tweak it for the football, the football formula of it all, because you're going to have at least 8 games against Division I opponents. So you just have to say you have to play at least 10 or 11. You can only play one FCS game, whatever it is.
Yeah, don't play your in-conference team. Go play somebody else that's in Division I, I guess, is what you could do. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's ways around it. Yeah.
Everybody has this many conference games. You can only play one FCS game and all that. And then everything can stay pretty much the same, And look, in my opinion, if you wanted to keep the bowls, just instead of doing the conference tie-ins and all that stuff, just roll the thing all the way down to how many bowls there are and match that up crazy, so you can get wild and crazy bowl matchups. I mean, heck, we got a conference bowl matchup. It was one of the best bowl games last year in BYU and Colorado. I wouldn't care if that happened again. Again, as a bowl game, it's extra, so you can keep it all. You have more college football. People can follow along. The rankings mean a lot more week to week.
I just slightly disagree. That was not a great game.
That was a great game.
That was a blowout.
It was a blowout. One of the, I guess, more I was looking forward to it a lot more.
Yeah, it was one of the more intriguing bowl games. I do think that, as anticipated, the bowl season left something to be desired. It wasn't quite what it felt like in previous years. I think that has some to do with the playoff system. That has a lot to do with NIL as well, and transfer portal, and all the various things that have been annoyances, or to some degree, for people. So yeah, I do think in a bowl season that lacked a lot of enticing matchups outside of the playoff, that was one of those on paper that looked really good. And then when you got to game time, it actually wasn't very entertaining, unless you were a BYU fan or an anti-Colorado fan. And then it was an awesome bowl game for you. But yeah, that was good on paper, not so much in practice. But yeah, I mean, look, man, we've talked about the playoff ad nauseum, and all the stuff over the last week really lit a fire underneath it and added some gasoline with Sankey's comments, and then the retorts from the other league leaders, or maybe not even retorts, but just like the kind of acknowledgement of what he was saying, and kind of an agree to disagree, or we do agree on this and we're all going to keep talking and moving forward. Like, clearly nothing is settled. We're going to have to get to a point where it is settled sooner rather than later, because this has to go into practice for next year, not this upcoming, but the year after, obviously. So I think the conversations will continue, but I do think there's other areas you could look to. If you're going to sit there and constantly point to soccer for inspiration, then yeah, why not look at college hockey, which is, right there and under your same umbrella, and take some ideas from them, or anything else that's kind of in that same vein. I'm all for trying to make this as logical and transparent, and just I guess I already said logical, but yeah, logical and transparent process as possible. That's what I think most fans are looking for, not something that's already pre-stuffed to the gills with propaganda or twisted by humans. Let's get some mix of computers and humans, and let's get to playing football, because that's really why we're all here, right? To put the best matchups on paper and see who the best team in the country is. So I'm all for the best way to do that, and if this is the best way, then count me as an in.
Yeah. So again, there's a way. It's out there. There's a way to dam the river, and if they want to grasp it, they don't really have to look that far, and they can. The committee doesn't have to meet every week. The computers can meet, and then after it's all said and done, in that last week, the committee can get together and run through the last couple weeks and run through scenarios, and then after championship week, look at what the numbers say. Make those determinations, have the arguments, because I'm sure that when you get, especially between, say, 12 and 20, a lot of years might be kind of muddled when it comes to that formula of like, okay, who didn't hit this criteria, all of that. A team could be 11-1, in maybe even in a power conference, but because their schedule didn't work out for them that way, like, they could be lower seeded or barely get in because the 9-3 team, like, was able to follow those rules, you know. And I say that able to because scheduling's not quite as, you know, it's easier than they make it, but still there's things you got to jump over, you know. And of course your strength of schedule metrics could not work out for you all that well. You know, you could be in a tough league and then you wind up with heck, the Big 12, you can think, like, man, we've got the hardest schedule in the Big 12, and then it does what the Big 12 does and flips upside down year to year, and your strength of schedule is crap. So that's what the committee's there to determine, like, oh, well, you know, they thought they were going to have a tough schedule, but all these teams went 4-8, you know. So that's what it's there for. So, yeah, I think the SoCon has told them what to do. Let's see if they follow it.